Give me an heir, and I'll save you from debt. That's what he said. But no one told me the billionaire would end up loving me instead. The night it happened, rain poured over Manhattan, like the city was trying to wash itself clean. The neon sign outside my bakery flickered, half the letters dead, the other half glowing weakly against the fog. Inside, the smell of cinnamon and burnt sugar clung to the air as I sat at the counter, staring at the foreclosure notice spread across the flour-dusted surface. My name, Evelyn Hart, looked so small printed next to the word default. I had 48 hours left before my father's bakery, the only thing he left me, would belong to the bank. My fingers trembled as I flipped through bills, each one heavier than the last. That was when the bell above the door chimed. I didn't look up right away. I thought it was another rain-soaked customer looking for warmth, but then a deep voice cut through the silence. "You still close at midnight?" I froze. I knew that voice. It had the weight of someone who'd never had to beg. When I finally looked up, he was standing there, Alexander Graves, the man every magazine called the coldest billionaire in New York. His tailored charcoal coat was dripping with rain, his expression unreadable. "You're closed," I managed to say, brushing flour off my hands. "I know," he said, stepping closer, "but I'm not here for bread." He placed a leather folder on the counter between us. Water dripped from his coat onto the papers inside. "You're $300,000 in debt," he said flatly. "The bank's taking this place tomorrow." My chest tightened. "How do you?" "I make it my business to know everything I invest in." His gray eyes were sharp, but not cruel. "And right now, Evelyn, I'm offering you a way out." I laughed, but it came out brittle. "A loan? Because I already owe half the city." "Not a loan," he said quietly. "A deal." He slid the folder toward me. Inside was a contract printed on thick cream paper. The words blurred through my tears as I read the first line, "Marriage agreement." I looked up, half convinced this was a joke. "You're insane." "Maybe," he said, voice calm. "But my grandfather's will requires an heir within a year if I want to keep control of Graves Holdings. I don't have time for games. You need money." "I need a wife." I stared at him, heart hammering. The rain outside sounded louder now, like the city was eavesdropping. "So this is what? A business transaction? You want me to give you a child for money?" "I'll erase every debt under your name, restore your bakery, and ensure you never work another double shift again," he said. "In return, you'll be my wife for 1 year. After that, you walk away free with everything." "You can't just buy someone's life," I whispered. "I'm not buying your life," he said. "I'm giving you a chance to start it over." For a moment, neither of us moved. I heard the clock ticking, the hum of the fridge, the soft drip of rain from his sleeve. His eyes never left mine. Then, slowly he added, "You have until midnight to decide." He turned and walked toward the door, the wind catching his coat as he stepped out into the storm. The bell chimed again, and he was gone. I stood there in the empty bakery, staring at the contract glistening with raindrops, my reflection trembling in the glass case. Outside, the city lights blurred like tears. Midnight was only 3 hours away, and somewhere deep down, I already knew my answer. The rain did not stop that night. I sat behind the counter, long after Alexander left, staring at the contract until the clock hit midnight. My hands smelled like sugar and fear. When I finally closed the bakery and walked home through the wet streets, the world felt heavy, the kind of heavy that seeps into your bones. I did not sleep. I kept seeing his face, the calm certainty in his eyes, as if he already knew what my answer would be. The next morning, I stood outside the bank as they taped the foreclosure notice to the window. My father's dream was gone. My dream was gone. I was too tired to cry. That was when a black town car pulled up to the curb. The tinted window rolled down, and Alexander's driver stepped out, holding an umbrella. "Mr. Graves is waiting for you," he said. I wanted to walk away, but something in me, maybe pride, maybe desperation, made my feet move. The car smelled like leather and cedar. Alexander sat across from me, reading a document. He did not look up until the car started moving. "You did not sign," he said. "You gave me 3 hours," I answered. That was not enough to decide whether I want to sell my soul. He closed the folder, finally meeting my eyes. This is not about your soul, Evelyn. It is about survival. He slid a small velvet box across the seat. Inside was a simple platinum band. No diamonds, no glitter, just weight and meaning. If you agree, he said quietly, we marry at City Hall today. My throat went dry. You planned all of this, did you not? I plan everything, he said. It is how I stay alive in a world that eats the unprepared. I stared at the ring until the buildings blurred outside the window. The city felt different from inside his car. Colder, richer, unreachable. What happens if I say no? I asked. Then you go back to whatever is left of the bakery, he said, his tone steady but not cruel. And I find someone else. But I will tell you this, Evelyn Hart. I do not make offers twice. The car stopped outside City Hall. The rain had slowed to a soft drizzle. People rushed past us, umbrellas colliding, life moving as if nothing extraordinary was about to happen. I sat frozen. Alexander stepped out, turned back to me, and held out his hand. Decide, he said. The sound of my heartbeat filled the silence. I thought of my father, of the mornings we opened the shop at dawn, of his tired smile when he said, "We keep going, sweetheart, no matter what." My fingers moved before my mind caught up. I took his hand. The next hour felt like a blur. The marble floors, the clerk reading the vows, the cold metal of the ring sliding onto my finger. When he said, "I do," it sounded like a statement, not a promise. When I echoed it, it felt like a surrender. Outside City Hall, the sky began to clear, the first sunlight breaking through the clouds. The photographers waiting on the steps did not know who we were, and maybe that was the point. For them, we were just another couple getting married in the rain. But for me, it felt like I had stepped into someone else's life. In the car, I stared at my reflection in the window, Mrs. Evelyn Graves. The name felt unreal. Alexander's voice broke the silence. "You will move into Graves Tower tonight," he said. "My assistant will arrange everything." "Do I have a choice?" I asked. "Not anymore," he said, but there was something softer in his tone now, a flicker of something almost human. The city stretched out around us, silver and wet. And I wondered what I had just done. I had sold a year of my life to a man who did not believe in love. What I did not know then was that somewhere between his logic and my desperation, something real was about to begin. The penthouse at Graves Tower was everything the bakery had never been. Silent, polished, too perfect to touch. The marble floors reflected the morning light like a mirror, and the air smelled faintly of jasmine and money. I stood by the window on my first day there, watching the skyline stretch endlessly over Manhattan. Somewhere below, people were buying coffee for $3, rushing to jobs that barely paid rent. I used to be one of them. Now, I was the wife of a billionaire, living in a place where even the doorknobs looked expensive enough to pay my debts twice. Alexander had left early for a board meeting. His assistant, a woman named Clara, had delivered a schedule for me, as if I was part of his business portfolio. Breakfast at 8, appearance briefing at 10, medical consultation at noon. "Standard procedure," she said crisply. "You are now Mrs. Graves. The press will notice." Her tone made it clear that this was not an honor, it was a responsibility. I smiled politely, though my chest felt tight. The word wife did not fit yet. It felt like a borrowed dress that needed altering. Later that day, I found the kitchen. It was larger than the entire bakery I had lost, filled with machines I did not know how to use. But I needed to do something familiar, something that smelled like home. I tied my hair back, rolled up my sleeves, and started baking. Flour dusted the counters, butter softened under the heat of my palms, and for the first time since signing that contract, I breathed easier. When the scent of cinnamon began to fill the air, footsteps echoed from the hallway. I turned and froze. Alexander stood there, still in his suit, his tie loosened, a look of disbelief crossing his face. "You are baking," he said slowly, as if the concept were foreign. "It helps me think," I answered, brushing flour from my cheek. "Would you like some?" He hesitated, his expression unreadable. "I do not eat sweets. That sounds lonely," I said before I could stop myself. His eyes flickered with something amusement, maybe annoyance, but he said nothing. He watched as I pulled a tray from the oven. "You are not what I expected," he murmured. "Neither are you," I replied. For a brief second, the corners of his mouth curved. Not a smile exactly, but close. He left soon after, but when I cleaned up later, I found a half-eaten piece of pastry left on a napkin. No note. Just crumbs and proof that maybe he was not made entirely of ice. That night I explored the penthouse. Each room felt curated, too perfect, as if no one truly lived there. In his study, I found photos old, framed, carefully hidden behind awards. A younger Alexander with his parents, standing in front of Graves Industries headquarters. The father's hand on his shoulder, the same cold pride mirrored in both their faces. No mother in the later pictures. I wondered where she went, or if anyone dared to ask. The clock struck midnight before I realized how late it was. I returned to my room, but sleep refused to come. My mind replayed his voice from earlier, that subtle crack in his tone when he said, "You are not what I expected." The next morning, the tabloids had already found us. My name, my photo, headlines like "Billionaire marries small-town baker" splashed across every site. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. Alexander entered the room, phone in hand. "Ignore it," he said. "They feed on attention." "They are saying I trapped you for money," I said quietly. "Let them," he replied. "We know the truth." I looked at him, trying to read the sincerity behind his calm. "Do we?" I asked. He paused, then said, "We will." When he left, I noticed something on the counter, a small paper bag, still warm. Inside, 2 croissants. My croissants. He had gone down to the kitchen himself. It was the smallest gesture, but it changed everything. For the first time since I met him, I smiled without fear. Somewhere beneath the contract and the walls of glass, something fragile had started to grow, something that neither of us had planned for. The following week felt like living inside a snow globe, beautiful but breakable. Every morning, Alexander left before sunrise, and the sound of the elevator doors closing became my alarm. I filled the silence by baking, reading, or wandering the long marble halls. The staff treated me with careful politeness, as if I were made of glass. The only one who did not bother to hide her judgment was Clara, his assistant. She arrived one afternoon with a stack of documents and a smile that did not reach her eyes. "The board is hosting a charity gala this weekend," she said. "You are expected to attend. It will be your first public appearance as Mrs. Graves. I have arranged fittings for you." "Fittings?" I asked, blinking. "A gown, hair, jewelry," she said, scanning me up and down. "Everything that says you belong here." Her tone made it clear that I did not. When she left, I sat in the living room, staring at the city below. The thought of stepping into his world terrified me more than the dead ever had. I was not built for spotlights. But that night, when Alexander came home, I forced myself to speak. "You did not tell me about the gala," I said. He loosened his tie, exhausted, his eyes softer than usual. "It slipped my mind. The event is for the foundation. It will not be as bad as you think." "I am not sure I can fit into your world," I admitted. "You already do," he said quietly. "You just do not see it yet." For a second, the air between us changed, like gravity had shifted. Then he turned away, breaking the moment. On the night of the gala, the driver opened the car door, and flashes of cameras exploded like lightning. My gown shimmered under the lights, gold silk flowing like liquid sunlight. Alexander stepped out first, composed as ever, his hand extended toward me. I took it, my pulse loud in my ears. Inside the ballroom, the chandeliers glowed, and the hum of conversation buzzed around us. Everywhere I turned, people stared. Whispers followed me like perfume. "That is her," someone said. "The baker." I tried to smile, but my hands trembled. A waiter brushed past, nearly spilling champagne. I caught the tray just in time, earning a few surprised glances. One man near the bar laughed under his breath. "Careful, sweetheart, that is not flour." My cheeks burned. Before I could respond, Alexander appeared beside me, his presence a wall of quiet authority. He looked at the man coldly. "Apologize," he said. The man stammered something and vanished. Alexander turned to me. "Are you all right?" "You did not have to do that," I whispered. "Yes, I did." His voice was low, steady, but something deeper hid beneath it, something protective. For the first time, I saw the man behind the empire. Later, during his speech, he mentioned the bakery foundation we would launch together, an idea we had discussed over coffee earlier that week. The crowd applauded politely, but when he said, "My wife reminded me that success means nothing if it does not lift others," the applause grew louder. I stood there, stunned. He had said it publicly, in front of everyone. After the speech, he returned to my side, his hand brushing mine. "See? Not so bad," he murmured. I smiled, barely able to breathe. The night blurred into music and laughter, but my mind replayed that moment again and again. When we finally returned to the penthouse, the city glittered below us. I slipped off my shoes and turned to thank him, but he was already looking at me. "You handled yourself well," he said. "You made me proud." The words landed softly, unexpectedly. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his jaw tightening. "Crisis at the board. I have to go." The warmth in the room faded as quickly as it came. When the elevator doors closed behind him, I stood alone in the quiet again, still wearing the gown that smelled of roses and smoke. I touched the ring on my finger and whispered to the empty room, "You are not the only one learning how to survive, Alexander Graves." Outside, the city lights blinked back like they understood. The morning after the gala, the tabloids were everywhere. Headlines screamed about the Cinderella wife of Alexander Graves, dissecting every detail of my dress, my smile, even the way I held his hand. I wanted to hide, but Alexander simply said, "Let them talk. Tomorrow, they will move on to someone else." He was calm, almost indifferent, but I could tell he was watching how it affected me. For the first time, he canceled a meeting and stayed home. We ate breakfast together in silence, the sound of rain against the windows soft and steady. When I reached for the coffee, our hands brushed, and for a brief moment, the distance between us felt smaller. After that day, things began to change. He started coming home earlier, sometimes joining me in the kitchen while I baked. He never said much, but he watched, curious, as if trying to understand why flour on my hands made me happier than diamonds ever could. Once I found him rolling dough awkwardly beside me. When I laughed, he looked genuinely confused. "What?" he asked. "You are folding it like a contract," I teased. He stared at the dough, then at me, and for the first time he laughed, soft, real, unguarded. That sound stayed with me for days. Still, beneath the laughter, there was something guarded in him, a wall that refused to come down completely. One night, I woke to the sound of his voice echoing faintly from his study. I walked quietly down the hallway, the floor cold under my feet. The door was slightly open. Alexander stood by the window, his phone pressed to his ear, his tone sharp but low. "No," I said, "it is not negotiable. The board will follow my lead or they can leave." He hung up and pressed a hand against his forehead, looking older than I had ever seen him. "You should not be awake," he said without turning. "You should not work yourself to exhaustion," I replied. He exhaled, long and heavy. "Control is the only thing that keeps this empire from collapsing." "Or maybe it is the only thing keeping you from living," I said softly. He turned to me then, and the look in his eyes was not anger, it was pain. "Do you know what happens when you let people close, Evelyn?" he asked. "They leave. Or worse, they destroy everything you built." His voice cracked on the last word. For the first time, I saw not the billionaire, but the boy who had lost too much too young. I stepped closer, placing a hand over his. "Then maybe you need someone who will not," I whispered. For a moment, he did not move. Then he closed his eyes and let out a breath, the kind that sounds like surrender. "You should go back to bed," he said quietly. But his fingers lingered on mine before he pulled away. The next few days carried a strange calm. He was distant again, but no longer cold. He started leaving small things on the counter each morning, a cup of coffee the way I liked it, a folded newspaper with my favorite crossword already started, tiny gestures that spoke louder than any vow. One afternoon, we took a drive to the coast. He said he needed air. The ocean wind tangled my hair as we stood by the cliffs. "You know," I said, "if you stopped controlling everything, the world would not end." He smirked. "That is easy to say for someone who never had to fight for everything." "You think I never fought?" I said, meeting his gaze. "I fought for this bakery, for my father's dream, for myself. The difference is, I learned that some things are worth losing if it means keeping who you are." He looked at me for a long time, then said quietly, "You really are not what I expected." "Neither are you," I replied. The wind carried our words out to sea, and for the first time, he smiled. Not the polite, practiced one, but something real. In that moment, under the gray sky and salt air, I realized the contract had already begun to mean something neither of us could control. The days after our trip to the coast felt lighter, as if something had quietly shifted between us. Alexander started joining me for breakfast, not out of obligation but because he wanted to. Sometimes he would bring his laptop to the kitchen, working while I baked, the scent of cinnamon filling the air. The house, once cold and silent, began to sound like a place where people actually lived. One evening I found him sitting on the balcony, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, watching the city lights below. I brought him a mug of tea. He glanced at it, then at me. "You really think tea can fix everything?" he asked. "It fixes enough," I said, handing it to him. He smiled faintly and took a sip. For a few moments we sat in silence, the hum of the city like distant music. "When I was 12, he said suddenly, "my mother left. She said my father cared more about power than people. I told myself I would never be like him. But sometimes I look in the mirror, and all I see is him staring back." His voice was quiet but raw. I turned to him. "You are not him, Alexander." "Aren't I?" he said. "I married a woman for convenience." I turned everything into a transaction. "Then stop," I said softly. "Stop turning love into math." He looked at me, his jaw tight. "And what if I do not know how?" "Then let someone teach you," I whispered. He said nothing, but his hand brushed mine, deliberate and trembling. The air between us changed, thick with everything we were too afraid to say. Later that night, I could not sleep. I wandered through the penthouse, my mind replaying his words, his eyes, the way his walls had cracked. When I reached the kitchen, I saw something on the counter, a sketch of a bakery, my bakery, with a note in his handwriting. "What if we rebuild it?" My breath caught. The next morning I found him already awake, coffee in hand. "You drew this," I said, holding up the sketch. "You said it was your father's dream," he replied. "I thought it should live again. I have property on the east side. It is small, but it could be yours." "Why would you do that?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Because I want to see what makes you happy," he said. "I think I owe you that much." For a moment I forgot the contract, the rules, the ticking clock of our arrangement. I saw only the man in front of me, the one who had started believing in something other than control. We spent the next few weeks planning. The old rhythm of my life returned, the scent of dough, the laughter when he tried to knead and failed miserably. Sometimes I caught him watching me with a look that felt too real to be part of any deal. But happiness, I was learning, is fragile. One afternoon, Clara appeared at the penthouse unannounced, her heels clicking like gunfire against the floor. "The board is restless," she said, her tone sharp. "They think you are distracted, that this arrangement is costing the company." Alexander's eyes hardened. "Tell them my decisions are not up for debate." "Then perhaps you should know," she said, sliding a folder across the table, "that the press is digging deeper into your wife's past. They found the foreclosure notice, the debts, everything." I froze. Alexander's expression turned unreadable. "Leave us," he said to her. When she was gone, the silence felt like glass about to shatter. "I did not know they would find that," I whispered. He turned to me, his voice low. "Did you hide it from me? You already knew about my debts," I said. "You came to me because of them." "Yes," he said, But I did not expect the world to think I bought you. The words cut deeper than I wanted them to. Is that what you think too? I asked quietly. His gaze faltered. I do not know what to think anymore. I stepped back, the distance between us suddenly too wide. Then maybe you should figure it out, I said. I walked away before he could answer. For the first time since marrying him, the penthouse felt cold again. The next few days passed in silence, the kind that did not need words to hurt. Alexander buried himself in work, staying late at the office, avoiding meals, and leaving before I woke. I stopped baking. The kitchen felt empty without his quiet presence and his half-smile when he thought I was not looking. Every corner of the penthouse reminded me of what had changed, and yet the hardest part was realizing that I missed him, not the comfort or the safety he offered, but him. The gossip columns kept feeding the fire, painting me as the opportunist who trapped a billionaire. I tried not to read, but their words found me anyway. I thought of leaving, packing what little I had, and disappearing before the story swallowed me whole, but something inside me refused to run this time. I had survived worse than words. One evening, while Alexander was still at work, Clara appeared again. Her lipstick was sharp, her smile colder than usual. "You should know the board is voting tomorrow," she said. "If this scandal continues, they will move to strip him of control." "And you want that, do you not?" I asked quietly. "I want stability," she said. "You are a liability, Evelyn. You were always temporary. He will realize that soon enough." She turned to leave, but I stopped her. "If you care about stability, maybe stop poisoning everything that is still holding him together." She gave a small, cruel laugh and walked out. That night I waited for Alexander, but he never came home. I fell asleep on the couch, the city lights flickering against the windows. When I woke, it was almost dawn. The door to his study was open, and papers were scattered across the desk. Among them was the sketch he had drawn of my bakery, now crumpled and stained with coffee. Something inside me cracked. I gathered the papers and straightened them, smoothing every crease as if I could fix more than paper. Then I found a small envelope beneath the stack. Inside was a letter written in his precise handwriting. It was addressed to the Board of Graves Holdings, authorizing his resignation. My chest tightened. He was going to give up everything. I did not think. I grabbed my coat and called for the driver. The sun was just rising when I reached the Graves headquarters. The glass building shimmered like a blade. Security tried to stop me, but I pushed through. The boardroom doors were open, and every executive was seated. Alexander stood at the head of the table, his voice calm but tired. "If my personal life endangers the company, I will step down," he said. "You will not," I said, my voice cutting through the room. Everyone turned. His eyes widened when he saw me. "Evelyn, you should not be here." "Neither should you," I said, walking closer. "You built this company with everything you had. You fought for it, sacrificed for it, and now you are ready to throw it away because of me." The room was silent. "They think I am a distraction? Fine, let them. But if they cannot see the man you are, they do not deserve to follow you." Alexander looked stunned. Then something broke in his expression: pride, anger, maybe love. "You should not have come," he said softly. "Yes, I should," I replied. "Because for once, I am not afraid to stand beside you." The chairman cleared his throat awkwardly. "Mr. Graves, perhaps we should reconsider." Alexander raised a hand. "The meeting is over." When everyone filed out, he turned to me. "Why did you do that?" "Because you were about to make a mistake," I said. "And because I am tired of you pretending that what we have means nothing." He stepped closer. "It was not supposed to mean anything." "But it does," I said. His silence was answer enough. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then, without a word, he reached out and pulled me into his arms. The weight of his suit, the warmth of his breath, the tremor in his hands, it was real. No contracts, no conditions. Just us, standing in the middle of a glass tower as the sun rose over Manhattan. And for the first time since we met, I felt like we were finally on the same side. After that morning at the boardroom, everything changed. The news spread fast. The billionaire who stood up for his wife. The tabloids, hungry for scandal, now had a new story to chase, but this time the tone was different. They called it a redemption arc, a modern fairy tale. I did not care what they called it. All I knew was that Alexander looked lighter, freer, like he had finally stopped fighting ghosts. We went home in silence that day, not because we were angry, but because words felt too small for what had just happened. When we stepped into the penthouse, he took off his jacket and said quietly, "You should not have done that." I smiled. "You are welcome." He shook his head, the ghost of a smile touching his lips. "You are impossible." "And yet you married me," I said. For the first time, he laughed without restraint, the sound echoing through the empty hall. Later that night, as the city lights glittered below, he found me on the balcony. "You once said you wanted to rebuild your bakery," he said. "I want to help you do it. No contracts, no conditions." I looked at him, surprised. "You already gave me enough." "Not enough," he said softly. "Not if it means losing you again." He handed me a small envelope. Inside was a deed, the property title to a corner shop on the east side already in my name. "You bought this?" I asked, tears welling up. "We bought it," he corrected. "I just signed faster." I laughed, my chest tightening. For the first time since the wedding, the ring on my finger felt like it belonged there. The following weeks were a blur of sawdust, paint, and hope. We spent mornings at the new bakery site, working with builders, tasting recipes, and arguing about the color of the walls. Sometimes he rolled up his sleeves and helped mix batter, which ended in disaster every time. But he kept trying. The staff adored him for it. The tabloids moved on to someone else, and for once, peace felt possible. One evening, we sat on the bakery floor surrounded by boxes, eating pizza straight from the box. My hair was a mess. His shirt was streaked with flour, and he looked more human than I had ever seen him. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked quietly. "Regret what?" "This arrangement, the deal." He looked at me, his expression soft. "It stopped being a deal the day you laughed in my kitchen." My heart skipped. I wanted to say something, but the words stuck. Then he reached into his pocket and placed something in my hand, a small folded piece of paper. When I opened it, I saw the original marriage contract, the one I had signed months ago, torn neatly in half. "What are you doing?" I whispered. "Ending what we started wrong," he said. "No more rules, no more debts. If you stay, I want it to be because you choose to, not because you have to." My eyes burned. "And if I choose to stay, then I will spend the rest of my life proving you were right to." The city lights flickered outside as if holding their breath. I leaned closer, our foreheads touching. "You already have?" I whispered. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The sound of traffic below faded, replaced by the steady rhythm of two hearts finally beating in sync. The next morning, we reopened the bakery under a new name, Hart & Graves. The sign gleamed against the morning Sunday. People lined up outside, drawn by curiosity, maybe by the smell of fresh bread. Alexander stood beside me, sleeves rolled, helping serve customers with the kind of clumsy charm that made people smile. At one point, a little girl handed him a cookie and said, "You look happier now." He looked down at her and smiled. "I am." When he turned to me, his eyes softened. "Are you?" he asked. "More than I ever thought I could be," I said. In that moment, I realized that love had not saved us from our flaws. It had revealed them and made us human again. The contract was gone, but what remained was real, the kind of love that did not need saving, only choosing every single day. The new bakery opened exactly 1 year after the night Alexander walked into my old shop with a contract in his hand. The smell of cinnamon and coffee filled the air as the doors swung open to a crowd of curious faces, friends, and even a few former critics. The Hart & Graves bakery sign gleamed under the morning sun, its gold letters reflecting everything we had fought to rebuild. I stood beside him behind the counter, wearing my flour-dusted apron while he, the once untouchable billionaire, wore a smile that could have melted stone. Every detail of that morning felt like poetry, the laughter of customers, the sound of the espresso machine, the soft music floating in the air. A local reporter approached us and asked, "So what is the secret behind this new chapter?" Alexander glanced at me before answering. "It started with a deal, but it became a promise." His words carried the weight of a man who had learned that power was meaningless without purpose. After the crowd left, he took my hand and guided me to the back of the bakery. On the wall hung a framed photograph of my father, smiling in front of his old shop. Beneath it, a small plaque read, "For those who believed even when no one else did." My throat tightened as I turned to him. "You did this?" "You did," he said softly. "I just made sure the world could see it." In the quiet that followed, I realized something simple but profound: he had not saved me. We had saved each other. Later that evening, after closing, we sat outside on the same bench where we had first dreamed of this place. The city hummed around us, but it felt far away, like another lifetime. "It is strange," I said, watching the streetlights blink. "A year ago, I thought my life was ending." "It was not ending," he said. "It was just beginning." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, nothing like the one that had sealed our contract. "What is this?" I asked, my voice trembling. "This one is not part of any deal," he said. "It is a choice. Stay, not because you must, but because you want to." My heart raced. "You do realize I already did," he smiled. "Then let me make it official." He slipped the ring onto my finger, and I felt tears blur my vision. The man who once measured love in terms of power now held my hand like it was the only truth that mattered. We got married again a month later, quietly, with only a few friends and the smell of vanilla in the air. No photographers, no headlines, just two people who had learned that love does not need an audience, only honesty. When he said, "I do," this time it sounded like a promise. I kissed him and whispered, "Best mistake we ever made." He laughed, brushing his thumb over my cheek. "No," he said, "best miracle." Months later, the bakery became more than a business. It became a place of kindness. We hired people who needed second chances, funded scholarships for culinary students, and hosted free baking classes for kids every Saturday. Every act of kindness felt like a quiet echo of what started it all the night. A desperate baker and a lonely billionaire made a deal. Neither of them truly understood. And every evening when we locked up, he would still whisper, "Ready to go home?" And I would smile because I finally knew what home meant. It was not the penthouse, or the title, or the fortune. It was us. It was love earned, not owed. If this story touched you even just a little, hit like so the algorithm knows we still believe in kindness. Tap subscribe and the notification bell so you will not miss the next journey. I would love to hear your thoughts. What moment of giving once changed you? Share it in the comments below. Your story might become the inspiration for the next video. And if you think someone needs to hear this story, please share it with them. Thank you for spending your time here. See you again in the next story.